Thanks, Conor, and good morning, everybody. The last time I think I opened this conference, I was the Minister for Agriculture, and now I have the privilege of being Minister for Foreign Affairs and Trade, but also Minister with responsibility for coordinating our collective efforts in government in the context of Brexit. So I was in London for the day yesterday, and we had frank and good discussions on Brexit with the Chancellor, Philip Hammond, in the morning, and with David Davis. And I also had the opportunity to meet the leader of the Labour Party in the UK for the first time, reinforcing the message and the point that Ireland's relationship with the United Kingdom needs to remain interconnected and strong, and we need to find a pragmatic and practical way based on realism in terms of what is possible in the context of Britain's decision to leave the European Union. I've also had an opportunity to visit the United States twice since becoming Minister for Foreign Affairs, and it has really reinforced a view that I already held very strongly, that in many ways Ireland has an extraordinary connection right across the world with Irish people, something we need to continue to build on, and something which many other countries look on with a lot of envy in terms of how Ireland has managed and plans to manage the connectivity with Irish people and friends of Irish people across the world. I spoke briefly to Kingsley Aikens on the way in, and he rightly made the point to me that we have something very special that many other countries would like to have but don't, and we have an opportunity to build on that now in the context of a global family, whether that's in the context of business, politics, or indeed family relationships. And so this morning is a really good opportunity for me to thank Iibn and its drivers for the work that you continue to do to bring Irish people together, to support and mentor many young entrepreneurs and companies. Talking to Jonathan on the way in, I said to him, what should I say this morning? And he said, well, you know, this is a room of can-do people. They like to make things happen, they like to do things for themselves, but they also expect a government to be supportive of that type of thinking. And that is exactly what we want to encourage more of this morning. So this is Iibn has been hugely helpful to my new department over a number of years now, and that is why we have, through our Immigrant Support Programme, continued to support a number of the programmes, most recently your Global Irish Female Entrepreneurship Programme and your Future Leaders Programme through Iibn. When you look at the lineup of speakers for the day, you're going to have an interesting day. Some great people who have great stories to tell about projects like the Ludgate Hub in Skibbereen, which really is a model project that so many other towns now want to follow on, to actually talking and hearing from Irish entrepreneurs that have made their mark around the world, to having a focused session on Brexit, which I'm glad you're having, and if I was here later I'd happily be part of that. And so we are focusing on the challenges that we have to build on the connectivity that's already there, recognising the realities of what we face. The European Union at the moment not only needs to deal with Britain leaving, but it is also very much focused on a debate now on the future of Europe. What kind of European Union do we want in 5 and 10 and 20 years' time? And how is Ireland going to fit into that? How are Irish people going to fit into that in the context of many of the ambitions that you have? Likewise, we are dealing with a very different US administration right now. And how does Ireland maintain its close and valuable relationship with the United States in that context? Again, something that we are thinking about and working towards on a weekly basis. And of course, we are dealing with the fact that our closest neighbour and our closest friend has decided to take a very different path for the future to our own. And even though that has happened in the past, when Britain and Ireland have diverged from a policy perspective, this is quite a fundamental one. And how does Ireland ensure that in the context of that choice that was democratically taken, that we regret and I believe is an extraordinary mistake? How do we work towards trying to limit the damage and take the opportunities that are there from Britain leaving the European Union? And I think those are questions that I hope you'll challenge each other on later during the day, and also focus on how Irish people can support each other and each other's businesses through that change process, which is undoubtedly underway, which is going to pose challenges for you and your businesses and your families, but also create opportunities also that we need to take advantage of. From an Irish perspective, we are trying to ensure that Ireland and the Irish economy is as resilient as it can be in the context of some of these changes. And I think the most important thing that we can do is to ensure that we have a stable and sustainable economy in Ireland, which is what we have been trying to build for the last 7 years, which for many people has been a painful journey, and for many Irish people who are living abroad has been, I think, fascinating to watch Ireland being in a very, very vulnerable and painful place to rebuilding an economy that is much more sustainable than anything we've had in the past. And we are now, as of yesterday, down to 6% unemployment and falling. 7 years ago, that was 16%. We are now a country that has below the average within the European Union debt to GDP ratios, something which nobody could have predicted 4 or 5 years ago. And this year we will be the fastest growing economy in the European Union for the 3rd year running. We are the youngest population in the European Union, and we are the fastest growing population too. In the last 12 months, 54,000 extra people living in Ireland. In the next 20 years, we are planning for an extra 1 million people, probably an extra 1.5 million people on this island. And we will spend in and around 80 billion euros on infrastructure to try and facilitate that growth story. And we have an economy that can now pay for it. In the last 2 weeks ago, we had a budget which has confirmed a doubling of capital investment between now and 2021 to what was previously planned, because we have an economy that can now afford to do that. And so we are starting to see a country now to dream again about what we can build, how we can support improved quality of life, and how we can help many of the young companies that are growing and expanding and want to be part of a new sustainable economy to actually do that in a viable way, and with as much certainty as we can create that this journey is not going to collapse again in a cycle of boom and bust as Ireland has experienced over the last 30 or 40 years. And more importantly, and the Taoiseach is very strong on this, as am I, we are recognising the importance of Ireland's global footprint in the context of that sustainable growth story into the future. Not only do we need to get it right at home, in terms of managing a balanced economy that can survive the pressures and challenges that undoubtedly we will face, but also we need to harness the potential of Ireland as a global story also. And that is why we have committed as a government to double Ireland's global footprint by 2025. And that will mean many, many more embassies, consulates, increased numbers of staff, looking at social media to expand Ireland's footprint and Ireland's reputation and Ireland's message across the world. That project has already started. We are going to open next year new embassies in Colombia. We're going to open a new consulate in Vancouver. We're going to open a new Irish house in Mumbai. We're going to open a new embassy in New Zealand. We're going to open a new embassy in Chile. We are going to increase our staff in all of the key European capitals, because we recognise that without Britain, Ireland is going to have to do a lot more on its own in terms of ensuring that the kind of attitude that we have towards global trade and free and open competition needs to be maintained and argued for within the European Union in the future. The truth is, and I think most people know it, that Britain did a lot of the heavy lifting that has ensured that we have a well-functioning single market across the European Union right now. Ironically, in an effort to look towards more free trade, Britain is deciding to leave the most successful free trade project in history. But that is just one of many, many ironies along with the Brexit debate.